Sorry, everyone. Can we just give us one moment while we sort out a minor technical hitch on our end?
I think, chị Phượng, you have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Should I start again?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, hi everyone. Sorry the technical issue. So I start again. First, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Phượng Ho, Education Trade Manager based at the British Consulate General, Ho Chi Minh City. I work with my counterpart Doãn Giang in Hanoi, based at the British Embassy. She's on the street. On behalf of the British Council, I'm sorry. On behalf of the British Embassy in Hanoi and the British Consulate General Ho Chi Minh City, I would like to extend our warm welcome to all distinguished guests, participants, and delegations. Thank you for taking the time to join today's Vietnam ESL strategy sharing session, presented by a representative from the Ministry of Education and Training and the British Council of Vietnam. This session will be recorded. As I shared with you before, the Ministry of Education and Training of Vietnam is currently developing and finalizing a national project aimed at gradually establishing English as the second language in school, spanning the periods from 2025 to 2035, with the long-term vision to 2045. This initiative is designed to align with the objectives outlined in Politburo Conclusion Number 91 on continuing the comprehensive and fundamental reform of education and training. In this context, the Department for Business and Trade at the British Embassy in Hanoi and the British Consulate General in Ho Chi Minh City, in collaboration with the British Council in Vietnam, are pleased to organize today's event, an insight sharing sessions to further explore this initiative and for future engagement where it is possible and the opportunities occurs. I would now like to introduce our distinguished guests and delegates. So please welcome Dr. Nguyễn Thị Mai Hữu, Director of the National Foreign Language Projects and Steering Committee ESL Strategy, Ministry of Education and Training. Please also welcome Mr. William Lawrence, Deputy Consul General and Head of Trade and Investment, British Consulate General, Ho Chi Minh City. Ms. Lin Ta, Senior Programs Manager, and Mr. David Chu Martin, Senior Academic Managers, British Council Vietnam. Ladies and gentlemen, to kick off today's event, I would like to invite Mr. William Lawrence, Deputy Consul General and Head of Trade and Investment, British Consulate General, Ho Chi Minh City, to give the opening remarks. So please welcome Will.
Thanks so much, Fung. And it's such a pleasure to join you all today at this online ESL or ELT strategy sharing session. And I'm particularly delighted that we have Dr. Mai Hu, the Director of the National Foreign Languages Project, representing the Ministry of Education and Training, joining us today. Really great to have you here. So education, as I'm sure you all probably know, is incredibly important to the UK, and it is in fact a cornerstone of the UK-Vietnam relationship and a really vital bridge in fostering our cultural and diplomatic relations. And this year, in fact, marks the 15th anniversary of our strategic partnership between UK and Vietnam, something that we're very proud of, and it's a relationship that's enabled really close collaboration across many sectors. But education has consistently been at its heart over the past 15 years. The UK is, of course, really well recognised around the world for our excellence in education and skills development. And of course, a natural choice for English language learning, offering really quality assured and effective systems, both in the UK and through British institutions worldwide. We are also very much a world leader in distance and e-learning, making courses accessible to students and professionals all around the globe. In recent months, we've received growing interest from UK education and ELT providers regarding Vietnam's recent Politburo conclusion. And I know that many of you are really eager to understand its implications and explore how UK ELT expertise can support Vietnam's goals, particularly in enhancing students' foreign language proficiency and positioning English as a second language in schools in the years to come. I should note that the British Council have been a really good and long-standing partner in supporting the National Foreign Languages Project and the Vietnam National Institute for Educational Sciences. And they've contributed research, case studies, and strategic recommendations for this ESL strategy. So our aim today is to provide the wider ELT sector, those of you on the call, with a briefing on the Ministry's ambitions for ESL in ELT in Vietnam, early insights into how these goals will be achieved, with the purpose of updating you on the progress of the strategy. And we will, of course, provide further updates where we can and where possible as this strategy continues to develop and be implemented in the months to come. I'd like to extend sincere thanks to Dr. Mai Hu for her continued support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties with MOET. You've been a great partner over the past couple of years, and I'm very keen to see that continue. Our appreciation also goes to Ms. Lien Ta, the Senior Programme Manager, and Mr. Davide Guarini-Gilmartin, the Senior Academic Manager, both from British Council Vietnam, for their dedication and for sharing their insights today. So on that note, I wish this event great success. I hope it all goes really well, and I hope you all have a good and insightful hour or so ahead of us. So enjoy, and I'll pass back to you, Phung.
Thank you very much, Deputy Consul General Will Lawrenson. I would like to check if Mai Hu is on the line. Can you turn on your camera?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, the message on the app is that the camera is on, but actually it's not now. I turn it on. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And now I would like to invite Dr. Nguyễn Thị Mai Hu, Director of National Foreign Language Project and Steering Committee ESL Strategy, on behalf of the Ministry of Education and Training, to share the past lesson learned from NFLP, leading to conclusion number 91 in August 2024 that indicated the movement to ESL, the scope of suggested solution and tasks to cover all education levels, school, tertiary, and vocational, and areas of curriculum, teaching workforce, assessment, technology applications, etc., and also presents what is happening at provincial and institutional levels in implementing ESL. So, Dr. Mai Hu, please welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Phượng, for your introduction, and thank you all for organizing this event so that we from MOET Vietnam can share our some of the work that we are doing in English language teaching in Vietnam, and also the expectation of making English a second language in Vietnam, in Vietnam schools, right? So my presentation today will cover some of the contents that I mentioned, and also we focus on the expectations from the ELT providers in Vietnam and in other countries as well. Okay, so could you move to the next slide, please? So you see that in Vietnam, in recent months, there's a message from the Central Party of Vietnam, directions that drew the attention of so many educators and almost all the people in Vietnam and other countries as well who have the concern about English language teaching. So you will see that this is very is currently a new trend and new directions in Vietnam. That is that's the directions of the Central Party toward ELT in Vietnam to make English gradually make English a second language in schools in Vietnam. Okay, so that's why I think that you all here today to know because you want to know more about this, right? Okay, next slide, please. So you can see here, I put on the screen the definition of ESL, right, in the country. And if English is the second language in a country where the English is not the official or main, who live in the countries with the mother tongue is not English. The native language is not English, but it is the main or official language in the country. And how about in the schools? So English as a second language in the schools is a situation that we understand that it could be the main or the official language in schools where the learner's native language is not English. And in Vietnam, there are different situations. Because right now, Vietnamese is the main and official language in the schools in Vietnam. So what's to understand this situation? Okay, next slide, please. Okay. And right now, that is only a direction, and we are gradually developing English to be the second language in schools, and so it's not mandatory yet. All the schools in Vietnam right now having Vietnamese as the first and main and only one right now official language of instruction, language of education in the schools. And in order to make English the second language in the schools, right now we are developing a lot of policies, plans from the central levels to the provincial levels and institutional level, and what to do. So the situation is all the school will have English as a main or official language of education. The answer is, of course, it's very difficult, right? Because even in the far future, it is very difficult for us to do so. That's why we have to consult ideas from experts from different institutions from across Vietnam and other countries as well, like the British Council. You supported us a lot in this activity. So, but with and also the lessons from other countries as well, right? We learned the lesson from Spain, Taiwan, Malaysia, and other countries, and we see that a school in Vietnam can use right now the Vietnamese is the official and main language in the schools in Vietnam, and if the schools developed it themselves to become English as a second language school, so we will have to define how and the scope of the work and how the schools should be prepared themselves to make English a second language in their schools. And how to do that is a big issue, right? So right now we currently think of the levels, 3 levels, but not yet decided, and also not yet approved. And we still right now for the central levels, we're still expecting the government to have final decision on the kind of we call the ESL project of the national scale. And so right now, we're still waiting for the final ideas from the government about this. And so from the very beginning, Ms. Phượng, you said about the ESL project, but it's I must say that it's not available yet. It's just only the expectation from us to the government, and we will have the answer soon. And so so what are the activities that the school should do to make their schools the schools of English as a second language? That's a question that we studied a lot in recent months. And we think that the school should develop their own English language subjects first, and then it could use English as a medium of instruction in some other subjects besides English, of course. It could be CREOL or EMI, and in some universities, even it is maybe ESP or EOP or EAP. Yep. As long as you have English, and you have English as the tools or instruction or the tools to learn the other subjects. Okay, so that is our overall and initial ideas of making schools schools of second of English as a second language. And so we think that from now to 2030, the schools will have to prepare the conditions to in order that they can use English as a tool of instructions in their schools, right? From now to 2030, and for schools who have already got enough conditions, they can claim itself to be the school of ESLs already, right? From now to 2030, for example, some schools in Ho Chi Minh City, right now they are having English subjects and also using English to teach mathematics, science in English. So those schools, they have already got the sufficient, or not sufficient, but some of the conditions to make themselves the school with English as a second language. So we think that in 2035, some of the schools in Vietnam, maybe the universities and school with the universities with English major gonna be the very first universities to claim themselves the ESL, English as a second language schools, universities. And we think that we expect in 2045, almost all the schools and universities, different levels from the primary education levels to tertiary education levels, they can all the schools in Vietnam can claim themselves to be school of ESL schools. Okay, so that is in 2045, but this is a long time from now to 2045, right? So next slide, please. The reasons why we think that ESL schools can use English as a second language in Vietnam is that we have the long time of implementing renovation in ELT in Vietnam. You can see on the screen there are 3 decisions by the government of Vietnam. One is in 2008 and the other in 2017 about the initiative of the government with the wish to improve the quality of foreign languages education in Vietnam, and we have the national foreign languages for education project, and since 2008, 2010 up to now, a lot of different activities have been implemented in Vietnam to enhance the quality of foreign languages education in the education system. And we can see that the activities are relating to curricular development, teacher training and educations, assessment and testing, the teaching methodology, and equipment and facility for to help teaching, to help English could be delivered in the schools. Later on, I will share with you about the current situation of ELT in Vietnam, so that you can see that from that foundation, yes, we are developing the new direction. Why the reasons why we are confident in proposing for the directions of making English a second language in school in Vietnam. And in 2014, the government of Vietnam issued another decision, that is decision number 72 in 2000, in number 72 about the teaching of Vietnamese curricula in foreign languages. And with that decision, the schools in universities in Vietnam can deliver a part or the whole curriculum of the schools in another language rather than Vietnamese. And most of the schools and universities right now implement the decision in with the English language. Okay, the next slide, please. So this is the overall situation of ELT in Vietnam that I want to share with you. And in the meantime, I want to share about not only English, but English used to teach other subjects and other majors as well. So regarding the learners of Vietnam learning foreign language and English language, 99% of all of the foreign languages learners in Vietnam learn English. So this means this is a big number. And when we talk about foreign language in Vietnam, almost all the people will think of that is the English that we're talking about, even though there are other languages like Chinese, Russian, German, Korean, Japanese, Chinese, other languages. But the learners of other languages account for just only less than 1%. Okay, and the learners in Vietnam have the opportunity to learn English from very young age. From ages 3 to 5, they have the opportunity to get to know the English. And the English subject is compulsory in general education from grade 3 from grade 3, and the expected learning outcome of general education is the level B1 of the CFR. So that's why if with the higher levels of education, they can learn English a little bit longer time to reach B2 levels, and then they can use the language to learn the other subjects, or they can learn the English English as a medium of instruction courses, training courses. Okay, so relating to the teachers of teaching English in Vietnam, different activities to train the in-service teachers so that they can teach. They are confident to teach English. Before 2010, less than 5% of all the general education English teachers in Vietnam have the proper English proficiency levels to deliver or required by MOET to teach English in the schools in Vietnam is the B2 level and C1 level. B2 level for primary school levels, primary education levels, and lower secondary education levels. C1 for higher education, for higher secondary education level and tertiary education. So less than 5%. Right now, it is nearly 90% of all the English language teachers in Vietnam. They have the B2 and C1 levels. So we are confident that the teachers right now, they have a quite good English language proficiency, and they have been trained to improve their teaching methodology and assessment and testing as well, ability as well. And that is the English language teachers. The other teachers of other subjects, and how about them? Yeah, in the schools, almost 90% of the lecturers delivering their own subjects, the subjects that are in charge of the universities in English, they have the proper English language proficiency. So this means it's B2 levels and higher. Okay, and many schools in Vietnam, they have English programs. that is a very good condition right now, right, for those schools to deliver the other so they have the current programs and other programs as well to be delivered in English. And so that is at the university. And for how about the schools? The subject teachers in the in general education schools, only some of them they can have the proper English proficiency to use the English as an instruction as a medium of instruction. You see, they are not required to have English proficiency, but almost all of them, they have the B1 and lower levels of English proficiency. And so if they want to use English as a medium of instruction, they should learn more to reach B2 and higher levels of English proficiency. And of course, the teaching methodology, like how to teach English, how to use English to teach a subject, like CLIL or AMI, they should also be trained as well. And in ELT, a lot of assessment and delivery techniques innovation changed in Vietnam in recent years, especially in the last 10 years. For assessment and testing, we changed from summative to formative assessment and competency-based assessment and testing. If in the past, exams are very common, and almost all the scores are from exams, right? But right now, the alternative assessment techniques like presentation, portfolio, project-based assessment, or scores have been available or have been applied by English language teachers in almost all the schools in Vietnam. And the teaching techniques, with the new curriculum of the English language, a curriculum of the general education, following the new reform in general education in Vietnam since 2018. With English subject, it is before that. It is since 2010, 2011. The new teaching approach has CLT approach has been applied in English language teaching in Vietnam. And so we now focus on the development of the competences of the learners using the language, not just only the knowledge or the grammar or structure or vocabs as you can think of and with the English language teaching in the past before even I myself or many of the Vietnamese people learned in the past before 2010, 2011 in Vietnam. And the teachers have applied new teaching techniques like apply ICT into teaching English, and in recent years is AI in teaching English, and new competencies-based teaching techniques. And so we welcome all the teaching techniques that can help the learners to develop their own proficiency, their own teaching the competencies of learning of using English. So we welcome all those techniques in ELT classes in the schools in Vietnam. And for the contents, English, we focus on the 4 skills with the speaking and listening with listening first for the young ages learners, and listening, listening and speaking, and then gradually the 4 skills account for the equivalent levels of importances in the ELT classes. And so, also the purpose is to develop the competencies of the learners. And we also welcome CLIL, ESP, EOB, CLIL for lower levels of education. We have ESP, EOB, EAP with the university levels, and EMI for even both the lower levels of education and university levels as well. why we call EMI for the general educations, because some of the schools in Ho Chi Minh City, in Hanoi, they are using English as a tool to learn the or medieval instruction in learning math and science. However, it is the learners have to learn the subjects in both English and Vietnamese, because we don't have right now, currently, we don't have yet with the national exams, with the test in English, with math and science. These are the two subjects that are being delivered in English the most in Vietnam, which the school are implementing such a program. Okay. And besides all those things, it is very important, and very important activities that we have been developing in Vietnam is to create the context for English to be used not only inside the classes but outside the classes in the schools as well. And we have the movement of learning and using English across Vietnam. The schools and the universities have the English language clubs, English corner, English contest. English is used as a medium of is the language, the common language to use in different outdoor activities as well, extracurricular activities. So the learners have the not the real, not the natural context, right? But the created context is to you, so they have the opportunities to use English outside the classes, not because it's not like in countries like in Singapore, right, and other countries, some other countries as well. English is a media of franca. Is it the language that different groups of people from different countries or different groups of people have know. So in Vietnam, Vietnam is not lingua franca, you see. So we have to create such context in the schools in Vietnam. Next slide, so you can see that from just sharing to you so after 10 years of implementing the NFLP and other activities in Vietnam, the teachers are confident to teach English. The English teachers are confident to teach English. The subject teachers still need more time to learn to teach their own subjects in English. And the learners with the general education, with the expected outcome is B1 levels. We're expecting that in the very near future, we can increase or raise the levels of expected learning outcome from B1 to B2 with the grade 12 learners, so that when at the university levels, they can learn the majors they can learn the English language with the English programs as the universities. So what I expected from we are expecting the schools to develop them to do activities towards the overall goal of making them a second language. English as a second language schools. And so what they are doing, there are a lot of activities that are being done in Vietnam from both the central, provincial, and institutional levels, especially in the policy making process. Right now, in this year, it is the policy making. Both the provinces, almost all the provinces are waiting for the information from the Ministry of Education and Training towards what they should do to prepare their schools to become ESL schools. And so from the central level, we are waiting for the government to say about the we call ESL project. And so with the ESL projects, we have the scope and work, we have the overall goal and objectives, what the school should do to make themselves ESL schools. And in a little bit more details, the school's gonna do a lot with the teachers, right? The activities for the teachers to improve the qualification of the teachers with the in-service teachers, especially for the subject teachers, and the pre-service teachers with the teachers education universities across Vietnam. Right now, the expected learn English language proficiency when they graduate the university is only B1 levels, but we will raise to B2 levels, so that the subject the teachers when the students, right, when they graduate they can teach the subjects in English, and of course other skills and techniques that they should learn as well so that they can have require they can be confident in using English as a medium of instruction with with the subjects they are teaching. And for curricula, a lot of changes in curricula as well. We will have to change the ELT curriculum of general education first, because right now is the expected learning outcome of grade 12 only B1. So this would be B2, B1 higher, or approach, or be even the B2 levels when the learners are at grade 12. And for the low learners level before they reach B1 or B2 levels, and if the teachers or schools want to deliver the subjects in English, it should be clear, right? They're learning the subject and contents at the same time. So the ministry also will have to issue the clear contents for general education. And EMI, yeah, some of the subjects can be delivered in English when the learners have the proper English language proficiency. And for the universities, they can use English to teach some or the whole program or part of the programs, the universities. And of course, the highest level we think is EME, when English is the medium of education. So English is the official or the main language of education in the school and in the universities. That is very difficult, but still we think that there are schools like that in Vietnam. So we're not expecting all the schools to deliver EME, but they could deliver some CLU or EMI only, some of the subjects, some of the part of the programs, not the whole programs. Okay, and they can still be considered ESL school, but of the level 1, level 2, or level 3, kind of that. And for the teaching and learning materials, right now in Vietnam, we are for digital transformation. So we will expect the application of ICT, of modern teaching technique into teaching English, and also teaching or using English as the medium of instruction, right? And assessment and testing should be also very important. Is also very important, and so there should be many changes in this as well, because right now we don't have the assessment in English yet with the schools with the Vietnamese programs. As those, for example, for the general education, almost all the general education's graduation exams of the national scale right now are in Vietnamese, and that's why if the schools right now want to deliver the subjects in Vietnamese in English only, it's very difficult for them, because they are only Vietnamese. The tests are in Vietnamese, so if you want to deliver the subjects in English only, so the national test of the general education for the exit test of the whole country, national scale, should be in English. So a lot of work should be done in this assessment and testing field if you wanna develop if the schools wanna develop themselves to be ESL schools, right? And also equipment in infrastructure also needs to be invested as well as the schools. And also again, for the context for English to be used in the schools, inside and outside the classes. So English should be the language, the main in office, the main language at work, applied by the schools, by all the teachers, used by all the teachers, documentations in English or in both English and Vietnamese. Also the very important issues. So we expect to have the support from ELT providers or the universities in other countries like UK to help us in curricular development, in teachers professional development, subject teachers, English teachers, assessment and testing, assessment for other subjects like mathematics, science. These are the two groups of subjects mostly gonna be delivered in English. Also, we expect to have the teaching and learning materials support from you with the digital documents and the documents that can help the teachers and the learners applying the ICT AI into teaching, into learning the subjects that are, you see. And these are all, I think, the strengths of those ELT providers and universities and schools in UK. So that's why I think these are some of the activities that we can see the support from you. And these are the sharing from me. And if you have questions, please send me via my email here or right now here. We can, if we have time, I can share with you more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mai Hữu, for sharing your valuable insights. Your contribution to this session has been very helpful in enhancing our understanding of the ELT current context and the progress being made towards implementing the government's vision and ESL strategy. Thank you so much. There will be a Q&A session at the end. If participants would like to address a question, so please type your questions in the chat box. However, before when registration, so some delegates already submit the questions. So if Dr. Mai Hữu could have a look on that, and yeah, we will come back to you later.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you. As previously mentioned by the Deputy Consul General in his opening speech and during Dr. Hữu's presentation, we all know that the British Council has been a long-standing collaboration in supporting the National Foreign Language Projects and the Vietnamese National Institution for Educational Sciences, contributing valuable research, case studies, and strategic insights to the development of the ESL strategy. So next, I would like to invite Mr. David Guarini Gil-Martin, Senior Academic Manager, British Council Vietnam, to share about the British Council work regarding the consultancy with Vietnam National Institution for Educational Sciences and National Foreign Language Projects from September 24 to February 2025, the period. And after that, the policy dialogue that you have been done with them, and key recommendation from the Australian Council for Education Research, ASA UK, report to MOET, NFLP, and then VNIES. So please, David, welcome.
Thanks, Phuong, and good morning to everyone in the UK. Good afternoon to everyone here in Vietnam. As Phuong says, I'm the Senior Academic Manager for English and School Education, and I'm here today joined by the Senior Programme Manager, Miss Lian. And later on, as Phuong says, hopefully we'll have some time. I should speak for about 15, hopefully maybe 20 minutes, and then we can have time for some Q&A, both to my Hugh as well as to myself and Lian. Let me just try and share my screen. I don't know why it's doing this. Bear with me a second, sorry. Is it that's right now? Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah. So as Phuong just mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about our work with MOET over the last few years with the Ministry of Education and Training. In particular, two things. One is how we've engaged with them over the last few months with some UK Vietnam consultancy to support them in their work, and then the move towards the current ESL strategy and approach. And I'm also going to introduce just very briefly some of the key recommendations that came out of that consultancy work and that have been shared already with the Ministry of Education and Training, and with the two key bodies that we work with. So I'll talk about that over the next few minutes. So the first thing to say is the consultancy was very much in response to a request from the National Foreign Languages Project. You've just heard from Dr. Mai Hugh, who's the director of the National Foreign Languages Project, to support them in the next step of English language development here in Vietnam. And this work has also been done in collaboration with VNIS, that's the Vietnam Institute of Educational Sciences. That's the research, for those of you in the UK, that's the research body, the research arm of the Ministry of MOET. So basically what we did was we appointed consultants from the UK, ACEI UK, after an exercise, after a proposal exercise. And that firm of consultants, ACEI UK, works very closely with Vietnam ELT experts and NFLP and VNIS to support some desk research looking into three main areas. The first one was to look at teacher quality and the importance of teacher quality. Mai Hugh has already touched on that. Also to look at student attainment in Vietnam over the last 10, 15 years, and also looking to the future, particularly in light of the new policy, the new directive, Directive 91, to think as well about the importance of English medium education going forward. So those are the three areas that we looked at. And we also, as Mai Hugh's already touched on, we also looked at some global and some regional case studies as well of English language teaching and English in different environments, particularly in different parts of the world. For example, Mai Hugh mentioned Malaysia and Taiwan in our part of the world, and also Spain as well. And then as part of that exercise in February, we had a policy dialogue with over 170 delegates, both online and offline. You can see the picture there on the left-hand side. And again, a number of international and UK ELT organisations were also represented at that policy dialogue. That was a two-day event to kind of test some of the draft recommendations. And this resulted in a final report which contains 31 recommendations, and these have been shared with MOET, with NFLP and VNIS as a result of the exercise. So what I'm going to do in the remaining time is just talk you very briefly through the exercise. So you can see on the screen here, ACER UK put together a theory of change. Apologies, I know you can't see that in great detail, but you can see on the left-hand side there the three main areas. You can see the policy recommendations, and some of the outputs from those, and how they feed into kind of short-term, medium-term, and long-term outcomes for longer-term impact on the Vietnam education system and the Vietnamese ELT development journey. Looking more closely at the teacher quality, the first of the three areas, again, you can see the idea there behind the theory of change and how the policies and the recommendations that were suggested to MOET, how they could impact going forward. And again, this is very much for MOET to consider. And we understand that MOET have been considering some of these recommendations as part of the development of the current strategy. As Mike, you mentioned earlier, that's currently being considered at the ministry level, and we're excited to see how that might develop over the next few months as well. So I'm just going to take you through those three main areas. And you can see on the left-hand side, as I share some of the recommendations, you can see the short-term, medium-term and long-term outcomes that were advocated for as a result of the consultancy. And on the right-hand side, I will share with you some of the key recommendations, particularly those that align with the ESL draft strategy that has been that is in process with MOET, with the support of NFLP and VNIS. So, and again, hopefully this picks up on some of the questions. That it's great to see the questions that Phuong has shared already in the chat that we got from some of the representatives here today in advance of today's session. So focusing first on the first of the three areas on teacher quality. In the short term, again, one of the recommendations was for the ministry to develop targeted CPD programs based on needs analysis. Kind of needs analysis could be countrywide, but also could be local, based on the provinces or based on certain geographical areas. Another more medium-term recommendation was to introduce flexible certification pathways for in-service teachers going forward. And then moving to perhaps longer term, kind of 6 to 10 years on, thinking carefully about reforming pre-service, the initial teacher education programs for subject teachers, again, as part of the government, as part of the ministry's ambition to move towards more subjects being taught through English as the medium of education. We'll come back to that later as well. And another longer term recommendation, although this perhaps could be considered a little bit earlier, it depends obviously on the ministry how they decide to reflect on some of these recommendations, is to establish a national framework for CPD. Already NFLP back in 2012, 2013 developed a foreign language teacher competency framework, and that's something that perhaps could be reviewed, and we'll look at that in a few minutes. So those are just some of the recommendations, I say, out of a total of 9 to the ministry to think about the area of teacher quality. Moving to the second area of student attainment, again, on the left, you can see the outcomes there. But in terms of the recommendations, there were 8 in total. The first one was, again, you heard Hugh mention the 2018 General Education English Curriculum. So this has been obviously implemented for the last 7 years, again being rolled out. So there's an opportunity now perhaps to evaluate the success of that curriculum. And I think from our conversations with the ministry and certain departments of the ministry, that is something that is being considered by the ministry going forward. Another issue, and again, this was picked up, I think, by Language Cert in their question as well that Phuong shared in the chat just before, to think about increasing more targeted support for schools, teachers, learners in some of the rural and more mountainous areas of the country, particularly through, as Mike, you mentioned, the digital transformation agenda as well. Moving to the medium term, again, opportunities to think about how we could strengthen assessment, strengthen competency-based assessment, and also enhance the national test bank and think about more 4 skills assessment and 4 skills testing nationwide. And another issue to think about as well that came out of the research and the consultancy was how to integrate English into workforce readiness programs so that we make sure that as learners move through basic education, through secondary education and into higher education, into tertiary education, how they are ready for the workforce, how they're ready for employability as well. So those are some of the policy recommendations in the space of student attainment. And then moving to the final area of English medium education. Again, I'll leave on this left-hand side some of the short, medium and long-term outcomes for you to have a look at. And there were many more recommendations in this space, obviously, bearing in mind the context of the August 2024 directive to move towards more English as a second language, EME teaching and learning across Vietnam. So some of the key recommendations that came out of the research was, in the short term, perhaps to establish a national ELT reform monitoring and evaluation framework so that we can really start to look at the progress of teachers and students in terms of their language proficiency, and teachers as well in terms of their language proficiency. Maihew's already touched on that, but also in terms of their pedagogy as well going forward into the EME space. And through that, we could publish, perhaps, again, MOET could consider publishing an annual English education progress report. Another short-term recommendation was to think about piloting and evaluating some EME models. Again, interesting looking at some of the questions in the chat that Fern has already shared, and whether MOET could consider establishing some clear English proficiency benchmarks, both for English language teaching as it's currently being delivered, but also as we move more increasingly into the EME space. Moving more to the medium term, again, another thing to consider is to develop national guidelines for bilingual programs, and also, as Maihew has already touched upon, to think about enhancing EME and CLIL pedagogical training. So again, this is something that we recommended to the ministry to consider going forward. And finally, looking to the long term, again, thinking about ways to scale implementation of EME at the nationwide level, but very much based on targeted pilots so that we can really evaluate the success of EME models and how they're rolled out over the next few years in the short to medium term. So that's a very brief summary of some of the recommendations that came through the consultancy exercise. And this is my final slide before we move to the Q&A, just to say that all the recommendations of the UK-Vietnam consultancy project have been already shared with MOET through NFLP and through VNIS, and they were also disseminated through this event here, one of the MOET consultation conferences that took place at the end of April. At that event, you can see in the photograph on the left, we had about 100 people attending, very much Vietnam-based, including many UK ELT providers and also international organizations, including some UN organizations and RELO from the US, as well as Cambridge, Pearson, and others. And they all had an opportunity to participate in the event and also share their contributions and share some of their feedback to MOET on the strategy that's currently being developed. And just to say that this event in April was one of a series. In that week, we had 3 different consultation exercises, or MOET, I should say, had 3 different consultation events, inviting contributions from various stakeholders across Vietnam into MOET's draft strategy. And all of these were in the presence of the Deputy Minister, Phan Ngoc Thương, and also members of MOET Steering Committee. So that's how the recommendations have been disseminated over the last few months, and today's event is another opportunity for us to share with you in the UK ELT sector the work that we've been doing at the British Council and some of the recommendations that have emerged rather from that UK Vietnam consultancy project over the last 6 months or so. So with that, I'll say thank you very much, and oops, sorry, to trigger happy there, and I'll hand back to Fern to facilitate the Q&A section. Back to you, Fern.
So thank you, David, for your hard work and sharing which is very useful to understand about the policy outcomes and recommendation for each short, medium, and long terms, and based on the consultant work or projects or event that you have been working supporting MOET via the ESL steering committee. Thank you so much. The UK is, of course, a natural choice for English language learning. Students benefit from high quality, well-regulated system for both within the UK and through British institution globally. So we would be delighted to collaborate with the Vietnamese government in this regards. And I'm sure the UK ELT sector providers are keen to further explore business opportunities, prepare joint initiative, or even joint force to support Vietnam's goal wherever opportunities arise. So to continue, we now go back to the Q&A session. Some of the questions that I have added in the chat box, and some I hope that as those of the questions have been addressed during the presentation. But I would like to mention for the question 2 of NISI, so they would like to give a background information that NISI own a literacy tool called Units of Sounds, which is used to teach in hundreds of schools in the UK, and now is taught in several schools in Japan, Cape Town, and Thailand. They want to ask whether MOET is open to pilot this English tool for primary school to assess the effectiveness. I think these questions could Michael address or answer this question, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Xu Phượng. Okay, the questions of Nisai Vietnam, right? The questions about I can see here 2 questions.
Yes.
One question is about the education of English at the primary level. Of course, in Vietnam, English is not the native language of the learners, so you cannot teach English in the way that English is now delivered, like in UK, in the UK, for example, or in the countries where English is the native language, right? So still, we can have to consider English is still EFL or or ESL. That is the expected goal, right? In ESL, right? But right now it's still EFL. So we're not like we focus on spelling, reading, memory, and dictation, of course, but more on the 4 skills to develop the competencies of the of using the language. See, and for the lower for grade 1 and 2, we focus on listening and learning, getting to know the language, pronunciation, and grammar and vocabulary, right? And from question number 2 that you mentioned here, of course you can see that with the current curriculum of general education, the volumes of learning English is not much, right? Because it's considered, it's not, we're not thinking of using English as a medium of instruction at the higher levels of education. And so if we, in the ESL project to come, right, the ELT subjects should be, the volumes of learning English should be higher. And so I mentioned the expected learning outcome at grade 12 would be B2, for example. And we will, of course, we welcome all the tools that help the learners and teachers learning learning English or learning other subjects in English as well, like maths or science. And we have we promote right now the MOET and the schools is promoting applying techniques like ICT and especially AI into teaching, not only English but other subjects as well in Vietnam. And the next Yeah, anything else that you
So,
want to?
so
I
thank
think
you, Mai Hu.
yeah.
I hope that Mai Hu answer is already met with Nisai expectation. Yeah, okay. So I go to the next questions from OUP. What are the legal and regulatory requirements for foreign publishers to collaborate with MOET on ESL projects? What role can international publishers play in supporting MOET's ESL initiatives?
Yeah, yeah, okay.
And
Super.
others, yeah.
Yes.
So you,
Yeah, I can say something about
yeah.
those questions. Okay. So in Vietnam right now, the foreign publishers can only join in providing in Vietnam in providing textbooks for general education. Uh, when they do a collaboration with Vietnamese publishers.
Okay.
Yeah. And in general education only I mentioned, not in social education.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it is still the same with when the ELT projects is to be approved and implemented. Yeah.
Okay. So they have asked several. Yeah.
Several. Yeah, that is. Yeah, and of course you can be the ELT provides. Yeah, the ELT publishers or the international publisher can contribute a lot to help the teachers training programs, because because right now you see that almost all the learning and teaching materials are in the digital forms already, right? And with so much support from the publishers to help the teachers in delivering the lessons. So the teachers, of course, they are going to be trained to apply different techniques in teaching English or teaching the other subjects in English. And if the learning and teaching materials can that you are going to provide to teach for the teachers and learners to learn other subjects in English can are covered with the instructions to the teachers, so that it is easier for the teachers to teach the subject in English. So that's going to be very helpful for the teacher training.
Yeah. Thank you very much. But they also asked that is MOET, if there's any how can international publisher contribute to teaching that you mentioned? But is MOET open to receive proposal from international publishers? So what process and whom should they contact? So through their partners,
yes,
or directly?
Yeah, thank you.
Could you?
So still, because no, I mentioned textbook is not gonna be not a part of the ESL projects, but and like NFLP projects currently implemented by MOET. And so and for general education, right? And for social education, the international publisher can work directly with the universities, with we want
university.
Yes, to
the
develop
education university.
Not just only education universities, but all the universities in Vietnam,
Okay.
public and private universities, they're gonna need textbook for their own programs to be delivered in English. Not textbook, but kind of yes, okay, teaching and learning materials. Okay, for the universities, for the schools, for general education, grade 1 to 12, you have to collaborate with the local publishers to provide textbooks, to provide teaching and learning materials in general education to the public schools in Vietnam. But not only English language ELT textbooks or teaching and learning materials, but the ones used to teach other subjects in English as well, like math and science. Yeah.
Okay.
Still in that format.
Still.
Yeah.
So we have another questions that's submitted before from University of Leicester. Does the project also cover theory education? So it's also my hope.
Yeah, of course.
Could also, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. And another questions from Pearson's. Could any international standard on or benchmarking be used for this reform? I'm sure that you have covered in some of the presentation. Yeah. And another questions from Cambridge University Press and Assessment. Any specific subject or areas might be taught in English going forward?
Yes, so for the schools, they're gonna select themselves to become ESL schools, whether some subjects or the whole program in English, right? So it could be CLIL, EMI, or EME, right? The school can select to develop themselves towards such different goals of ESL schools. And for the, of course, for the EME schools, of course, the Vietnamese subject not in English, and some other subjects should be in Vietnamese, and almost all the subjects can be in English. And the worst, and for the EMI schools, some of the subjects can be delivered are delivered in English. So most the subjects that are mostly delivered in could be right now delivered in English in the public schools in Vietnam is the math and science subjects. Yeah,
STEM
I think it's
subjects.
still in the near future. And then, but in the near future, we are promoting subjects like musics. Yeah,
Arts
and
and
physical education could be in English. Yeah.
okay.
Besides all the science subjects.
And I would suspect that it will pilots at some school, not just like roll out for the whole country, just some areas. Yeah.
Yeah, well, some schools in Vietnam are piloting ESLs already.
Yeah.
In Hanoi, in Ho Chi Minh City, and then we're gonna learn from those case studies, pilot implementation to roll out in the whole country for other schools. Yeah.
So we have another questions from language search. How can language assessment system be aligned with Vietnam's national education reform to ensure that learners acquire the foreign language proficiency required for meaningful participations in the global labor market and effective international integration by 2030 and beyond? The second question of language search is what models of teaching, or you can go first, the first questions, and then I can read another question because some of the participants cannot see the chat box. I don't know, somehow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, of course, we welcome all the international benchmarks or can say standards to be applied in Vietnam. For English language teaching, we welcome CFR, example, and we have the CFR for Vietnam, not we call it CFR VN, but the standards of learning English, the descriptors of describing the English language competences of the learners in Vietnam already issued in the form of circular in Vietnam a long time ago. You can find out or you can look for it on the internet. It is circular number 1 issued in 2014.
2014.
Yeah.
Okay. Circular number 1.
Yes, circular number 1 by the Ministry of Education and Training.
MOET. Yeah.
MOET, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And for other subjects, we also welcome international standards and benchmarking systems of other countries, as long as they are aligned to those subjects delivered in general education in Vietnam, already issued in 2018, and they're gonna be changed, but not many. And if those subjects are to be delivered by the public schools in English, so the MOET gonna have to gonna issue in guidelines and instructions, guidance, and how to deliver those subjects in English. And also we need assessment and testing to be in English as well for those subjects. And for the university, of course, they should do assessment and testing in English, and as long as the international standards or benchmarking system aligned to the curriculum that the schools or the programs of the university are implementing. I believe that the university gonna use those international standards.
Yeah, when the guidance are announced, so we are expecting to
yes
to explore further on that.
Yeah, MOET gonna be gonna issue different circulars or decision towards the different levels of ESL schools. Right, there may be 3 levels of ESL schools. Also, guidelines to do clues for lower levels educations with learners not high English proficiency, and also how to implement to deliver the subject in English for higher level learners. Of course, they need to have the good sufficient English language proficiency level. This should be maybe B2. Yeah, we are considering this, but only with B2 levels can they learn the subjects in English. Okay, like EMI classes. So with the EMI classes, it is very important the levels of English proficiency of the learners, or else we can only do clue for them.
So there is another question from language search as well. What models of teachers training and professional development can mostly effectively support the implementation of Vietnamese general education curriculum with a focus on modern pedagogical method and foreign language instructions in diverse education contexts? And another question is, in what ways can language assessment and teacher training be integrated into Vietnam digital transformation agenda to ensure equitable access to quality education, particularly in underserved and remote areas? Could my Hữu address the questions, and if there is further input, so David and Lynn from Protect Council, please welcome you to join the answers. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Very interesting questions and difficult as well, right? For question number 3, for example. Okay, so for the teacher training, right now we are using the hybrid mode form of training the teachers, both online and offline. But we would prefer online, and almost all the teacher training contents have already been developed in following from online training already. Right. Like English language teachers, for example, all the modules that we are using, all the teaching materials for all the teacher training modules have been developed in to follow online format of delivery, and so yeah, you can have a lot. If we can have the online contents for training the teachers, as long as they are aligned to the standards that the teachers in Vietnam have to have, right? Right now, there are standards for subject teachers, standards for English teachers, but not yet for the subject teachers deliver the subjects in English, right? But we're going to have that those standards as well. And relating the how the teachers can are ready, right, with the digital transformation in assessment and testing. It is right now we are We have already developed training modules called Application of AI into Teaching English in Vietnam. And part of the contents of the module, that module is towards helping the teachers with assessment and testing in case of applying AI into teaching English. But still, not many teachers in Vietnam have been trained with such module.
Method.
Such technique of teaching, of applying AI, modern technology into teaching. That is the most, I think, with AI is an assessment and testing is the most challenging for the teachers, not only English teachers, but the teachers of other subjects as well in Vietnam. And for for other forms of applying ICT into teaching English or assessment and testing, the teachers, ELT teachers in Vietnam are confident of applying those techniques into designing the tests, but not yet with AI.
Yeah. I suspect that a lot of training will be on the way.
So to be, and at MOET, I think, as far as I know, also the AI competences for the teachers as well. Also, should be also considered and also maybe required soon by MOET to the teachers across Vietnam.
So, David?
Yeah, I was just going to, thanks, Phương. I was just going to add to what Mike was saying there. And I know that in the last few months, MOETs have been working very closely with UNICEF, UNESCO, exactly as Mike said, to develop kind of an AI competency framework, both for teachers and also for learners in Vietnam. So it'll be interesting to see what emerges from those discussions and how that could help teachers and learners going forward to kind of, navigate some of the AI tools and things that are coming out. Back to the second question. Yeah, I totally agree with Mike. I think that the second question from Language Story is a really, really interesting question to think about, how to support teacher development, professional development going forward. Again, just to reiterate some of the recommendations that came out of the consultancy, we're very much focused in that space. How can we, not just British Council, but all UK and other ELT providers, how can we work with the ministry, work with NFLP, and any entity that emerges in the new framework? How can we really support teacher development going forward, both at pre-service and at in-service? But I think the one thing to say that is that we're really building, as Mike was touched on, we're building on a very solid foundation from the work that NFLP have done over the last 15 years, working through the key higher education institutions, key providers across Vietnam, who have been really working hard to support teacher development, both, as I say, at pre-service and at in-service level. So, but there's definitely an opportunity to kind of revisit that and think how could that be improved going forward, particularly as we move from kind of an ELT focus to more of a kind of EME focus as well. So I think that's something to keep an eye on going forward when any policy frameworks emerge, really.
Yeah. So that's very useful. And I have two other questions from Millennial Education. Could you please bear with us and stay with us for a while so that Good Mind or British Council can address this one. Under the new ESL strategy, will the MOET curriculum include more ESL periods compared to the current schedule? And the second question is, what plans are in place for ESL teachers training support from MOET and ELT providers? Yep. So I think this question is for...
Yeah, of course, for the new ESL subjects to be issued following the new project to making us ESLs in schools in Vietnam, right? Of course, the volume should be higher. Right now, for example, 3 to 4 periods a week, or it should be higher, 8 to 9 periods per week. I'm not sure of that yet at the moment, but that should be changed. And the ESL plans for the teachers. What do you? The second questions? Is that for
The
teacher
questions,
training?
yeah, for teacher training support from MOET and ELT providers. What plans are in place?
Yes. Yeah, and for the in the very near future of the training gonna be more for the subject teachers, not the the EL teachers. So the subject teachers gonna be trained so that they can have sufficient English language proficiency levels B2 and higher. They should be trained to deliver clear classes, EMI classes.
Yeah, we have another questions. Will university courses be taught using EMI? From when will this start? Is it taught?
That's from that's from Leicester from Louise from Leicester University, I think.
Yeah.
Back to the question earlier about tertiary education.
Yeah.
Okay.
You mean that in tertiary education, many schools in many universities in Vietnam have English programs, because those universities we have right now have programs like fast track programs with English as a medium of instructions, of instruction, and in the near future, those many universities are now restructuring and preparing themselves to claim themselves ESL universities. Yeah. And for the teachers, but from MOET, we highly we focus on the teachers education universities, so that the universities can if they are ESL universities, of course the teachers that they are preparing, educating, gonna become teachers with English, who can teach the subjects in English.
It's very useful. Thank you very much, Dr. Mai Hữu and David and Lynn. I hope that after today's sharing session, the UK participants have gained valuable insight and clearer understanding of the development and objective of the national ESL strategy. So before the events close, so I would like to, on behalf of the organizer, I would like to express my sincere thanks once again to all the participants for joining today's session, especially Dr. Mai Hữu, David and Lynn for your insight sharing and collaboration. We are looking forward to working more closely with you in the future and for any potential projects or collaboration that can arise. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.